So this machine that we're going to use right now is actually called a disc sander. The reason it's called a disc sander is because there is a spinning disc that actually moves around while this machine is running. The disc sander is used in sanding applications whenever you need to rough sand something to a finished length, to a line that you need to get to. There's various applications for it, but ultimately it's just used for rough sanding. You don't want to use this machine on the face of an item to get it to a finished sanded smoothness. That's not going to work very well. But the parts of the machine are pretty simple on this. You have the table right here. You're going to make sure that your wood is resting on the table, or your plastic, or whatever it is that you're sanding. You want to make sure it's resting up against the table, and you don't try to do it freehand. That's a bad idea. Over here is the sanding disc itself. It does have a piece of abrasive paper on it. The top right here, this whole cover around the top end of the disc, that's called a rim guard. And the purpose of that is so that you don't stick your hand on top and get it caught in that disc right there. And then over here, this actually is just a face guard of the machine so that you don't spin, or so you don't stand on the wrong side of the machine itself. When this disc spins on this particular machine, it actually spins counterclockwise. So if I was to sand a piece of wood on this side right here, as I was pushing it in, when it hit the piece of wood, if I didn't have a good grip on it, it would actually fly up in the air. So this guard right here stops you from standing on the wrong side of the machine. Your power button is over on the back side over here. And then on the sides, on the bottom, on both sides, there is a loosening kind of a clamp, and you can adjust the angle on the table. There's actually an angle adjustment meter or an angle adjustment gauge on the side of the machine that tells you what angle you're sanding at. The table on the machine should be roughly a 1/16 of an inch away from the disc. And you don't want it touching the disc because that's going to be problems. And if you have a big gap between where the disc is and where your table is, a piece of wood could get sucked down into it, which would cause a problem. When you're using this machine, you want to make sure, like I said before, that you're on the side of downward rotation away from this guard. Some machines don't have this guard on there. Now the side of downward rotation is usually labeled on the machine somewhere. On this machine, it's labeled on the top right here, and you can see that it's pointing in the counterclockwise direction. Some machines actually will have a toggle switch, this one doesn't, that would let you toggle which way the blades or the disc spins. So other than that, the only thing you really need to know is how to use the machine. Here I have a piece of wood that I cut previously on the bandsaw. You can see that I have a dark marked line on the piece of wood itself. You're going to use this sander to sand up against that line to the finished size. So you would take a machine, you can rough cut it to that size, then you can put it on the table here, turn the machine on, and sand up to that line. So now I have my piece of wood, I can put it up against the table, I turn the machine on with the on switch. And now you can see that I've sanded up to the line. The line is mostly gone on my part. So when you're done sanding, you can turn the machine off with the on-off switch. And this machine here, you'll see that the disc stops spinning very quickly. There's an automatic brake on the back end of this machine that engages when you turn it off, so it stops the blade from spinning. If you have an older machine that doesn't have the brake on it, you can actually use a piece of scrap wood to slow or stop this machine after you turn it off. This is one of the only machines that you can use to actually put a piece of wood into to slow it down or stop it after you're done. Now the one thing you do want to keep in mind is that you don't want to use your part that you've made to stop the machine after you turn it off, because it will ruin your part because it'll sand a little bit more off. Now that we're done sanding, you can see that there is actually a line of debris inside of the abrasive. This line right here is little bits of wood that are caught up in the machine. There is a special kind of rubberized material that you can use to clean out the abrasive in between uses if you have to. This piece of rubber is basically just, you turn the machine on and you stick it in and you work it back and forth to clean the disc out after you're finished.